Our Tuesday high, but a 50% chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Similar conditions the rest of the week with highs in the mid to upper 80s and rain chances around 50% every day this week. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point Local. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. No, number 1.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network on a very nice Monday, overcast but cool. Got some rain in the state of South Carolina. That's got to make everybody happy, I think, even though it is a Monday. It's the Monday after a pretty big weekend for South Carolina in recruiting, and it continues here late this afternoon as Shane Beamer, who I think is on vacation now, just sent out another commitment alert, a welcome home commitment alert on Twitter from Shane Beamer. So somebody else has been in touch and committed. Don't know if it's somebody from the weekend or somebody else who's been in and through South Carolina. They had 2 others confirmed so far from over the weekend. The most recent this afternoon as Grayson Pup Howard, linebacker from Jacksonville, announced his commitment to the Gamecocks. C.J. Adams, wide receiver, announced his commitment yesterday. He also, he's from Georgia. He's from Mapleton, Georgia. Howard is from Florida. And 2 good pickups for South Carolina as they continue to build their class piece by piece. And looks to me as if they're adding some really good players. You know, if the coaching staff wants them, if that's who they have identified as winning players and they're beating other major programs for them, for the most part, they've done that on most of these players, tells me that they're doing a good job on the recruiting front. So we'll talk all about that. We'll have our typical June Monday extended recruiting report coming up. John Kosis, voice of the Fireflies. Hey, they won some games this week after they flipped over to the second half of the season and wiped the slate clean and started 0-0. They were actually, might still be, above 500, which would be a nice turn of events for the Fireflies.
First place.
I'm saying they got off to a great start in the second half. So, outside of all that, though, we open up your phone calls here at 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number here on Sports Talk. Chris Bergen, Pat Daniel, alongside as well, 888-898-2525. So we have dropped the curtain officially now on the collegiate athletic season for the 2021-2022 academic calendar year, with the conclusion of the College World Series with Ole Miss, one of the schools that Pat Daniel went through on his way to getting a degree. How many did you go through? Just 2?
Just 2. Ole Miss, Clemson.
Okay. Did you go through the portal, John, to get from Ole Miss to Clemson?
No, I did not. I just straight through. Good time. I wanted to come closer to home, and I'd always wanted to go to Clemson, but grew up going to a small school here in the Midlands and went to a bigger school in Mississippi, quickly realized maybe I needed a little bit of guidance closer to home. It did not go so well for me, Corn.
Well, it helps to go to class just if you're going to stay in school. It helps to go to class.
Not anymore.
So anyway, Ole Miss wins the national championship. That's back-to-back national championships for the Magnolia State in baseball, and also the first men's national championship for an Ole Miss athletic team. So big weekend in Oxford.
And maybe Pat knows this. I did not realize they've won 4 other national championships in some other sports. I'm just not sure as to what. Does anybody know the other 4 national championships that they claim?
So that actually confused me. And I'll be honest, as somebody who spent a year down in Oxford, they claimed 3 football national championships back in the 60s, but they none of them are recognized by, I guess, the official governing bodies, I guess the NCAA or AP or whomever it may be. So it was just 3 of those. I guess you equate that to what Central Florida did a few years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say the UCF route.
Yeah. Or like NC State.
Yeah.
You might not proclaim us national championship. We might not have won it, but doggone it, we're national champions, and we'll claim it, and we'll go buy some rings. So, but anyway, that's a great story in its own right, the way Ole Miss, as we've talked about here several times, barely got into the tournament. As Matt Hoke was telling us last week, one of the last ones in that the selection committee put into the tournament. And they got red hot, Chris. I mean, it just all fell into place for them. Pitching, defense, offense, clutch plays. And that's what you have to do to win a tournament like that and to go through it. Well, I guess they lost once. They lost once to Arkansas. Otherwise, they went through it untouched.
Yeah, they were almost going to have one of those South Carolina runs through the NCAA tournament where they were unblemished. They blow into the regionals, win 3 straight, go to the super regionals, win both of them. And then they were cruising right along until the semifinals when they lost to Arkansas. But, Phil, that Ole Miss team was, I think, the one everybody thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season because they had terrific pitching and they had a lot of clutch hits, and they've got some guys who can bash the baseball. And that was that Ole Miss team that a lot of people projected as the number 1 team in the country at the beginning of the season. That we didn't see that materialize throughout the SEC, especially the early portion of the SEC play. But once they got into postseason, and they didn't play all that well in Hoover either. So this is a team that was sweating bullets on Memorial Day, and here they are, just a few days shy of July 4th, celebrating their first national championship. This is a remarkable story.
A team South Carolina took 2 of 3 from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in their wacky season. They also beat Texas 2 out of 3 in their wacky season. Speaking of Gamecocks, we'll have Mark Kingston with us tomorrow night at 6:30. First time that he's talked since the end of the season. He'll actually do a Zoom with the media in general tomorrow. Then he'll be with us at 6:30 tomorrow night. So make your plans for that. And the hockey season came to a close over the weekend. So the Avalanche crowned the winners of the Stanley Cup, the champions. And what else has come to a conclusion over the weekend?
They are another, if I can, I won't spend much time on hockey because I know our listeners don't care, but you want to talk about another program, if you will, that patience paid off. 5 years ago, the Avalanche was the absolute worst team in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, I don't think there was any doubt. They proved it on the ice last night. There's no doubt they were the best team in the NHL. It's amazing, especially in a salary cap era like you deal with in football, for them to be able to slowly build. They were horrible their first, 5 years ago, made the first round of the playoffs a couple of seasons, got to the second round a few seasons, and then all the way to the Stanley Cup. So had some really good stories over the weekend. I was not pulling for Colorado, but to see them take out the 2-time defending champions was pretty impressive.
I was impressed with how they handled themselves along the blue line and kept their icing under control. And
there you go. Yeah.
Seldom got off sides. Their hip checking looked good to me. I was amazed by some of the strategy that was employed there deployed by the Avalanche in winning Sir Stanley's Cup, as they drink from Sir Stanley's Cup.
And I'm sure everybody will. And by the way, Coastal had a couple of national champions, or at least, national champions over the weekend in track and field. You had Melissa Jefferson win the 100 meters and Mackenzie Kelly the under 20 400 meters. So it was a pretty good weekend, sports-wise, without a doubt.
All right, let's throw the number out there and get to some phone calls and hear what's on your mind on this Monday after. Our phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. Our new poll question of the week is getting a terrific response here first day out of the gate. So, and we'll talk more about this here coming up, but according to reports coming out over the weekend, a Miami collective will pay a quarterback $9.5 million. And, of course, a Tennessee collective will pay a quarterback $8 million. Do you think Gamecocks and Clemson collectives, USC and Clemson collectives, a.k.a. boosters, should engage in that type of bidding for a premier quarterback? I mean, I'm talking about the top of the line, the Arch Mannings, for example, the Trevor Lawrences. Whenever those types come along, the generational quarterbacks, should they get in the bidding and go for it. Because, and we'll talk more about this coming up, the situation with the Miami quarterback was it was a bidding war, according to reports, and he has a lawyer who apparently had him out to bid among multiple collectives, and and Florida actually, according to the reports, had 11 million plus on the table for him, but he took the Miami offer, which of course is supposedly not the way collectives are supposed to work. It's supposed to be against NCAA rules, etc. Anyway, 78.5% of our respondents, 228 votes so far, say no.
I'd love to
USC
live in
and
a world.
Clemson should not bid like that. 21.8% say yes. And my response to that is, bless you, those who say no, but I mean, you're going to have to.
What world are you living in?
You're going to have to, aren't you? I mean, how long is Clemson going to be? Here's my point. Clemson is taking their approach to their collective a certain way. South Carolina's taking their approach to collective a certain way. And you're going to get, and Clemson, because of its reputation and its recent winning ways, is going to attract a high-level player and a high-level quarterback in many cases, most cases, let's say. But you're going to run up. When you get to the playoffs, whether it's 4 or 8 or more, you're going to run up now against teams like Ohio State, Miami, who else gets involved in the high bidding, Texas. And they're going to have that guy that's just a little bit better, whether it's receiver and he's making 8 or 9 million, or quarterback and he's making 9 or 10 million. It might be one guy, it might be two guys, but that guy's going to make the difference. And when you lose to that guy and to that team because you were outbid for them, how are you going to feel? Or because you didn't bid, because you didn't want to participate. Mm-hmm. It goes back to the pre-NIL days when it was just flat out cheating. And you had some schools who would just flat out cheat and try to get away with it. And if they got caught, they got caught and they got punished. And you got others who try to play by the rules. We've got the exact same scenario, do we not? We got those who are going to try and play by the NIL rules and do it that way and pay chump change, basically, compared to some who are willing to bust the bank to get a key player who can help them win championships. Now, am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're 100% correct. And I'm like you. I'd love to live in the world where the 78% of the respondents say no. We don't need to recruit that way because that's just not realistic anymore. And as a matter of fact, USC's NIL, I didn't even realize they had an NIL social media site until today. Mm-hmm. They actually tweeted out some information because come Friday, whether it's Thursday night at midnight or Friday morning at 12 a.m., whichever way you look at this, the current state law regarding the NIL is going away. And if I'm the Gamecocks and the Tigers and the Chanticleers and the Buccaneers and the Terriers and the Paladins and everybody else, I beg the state to open things up for the NIL. We can do whatever we want to because they waited a year. Remember when this was first? It's hard to believe it's been a year since we've been talking about this. But the theory was when when the state of South Carolina and the other states around the country came up with these in-state rules for NIL, it was basically an interim position, Phil, because we were all hoping the NCAA would step in and come up with some common sense legislation. Well, they obviously have not. So now the clock and the hourglass has run out. So what do you do if you're a lobbyist for the Gamecocks or Clemson or CCU or anybody else? You've got to go to the state legislatures and say, look, we've got to be able to compete with Florida and Texas. And you see what they're doing now. We can't handcuff because according to the USC NIL Twitter page, the interim NCAA policy still prohibits recruiting inducements, basically what you're just talking about, pay for play type opportunities. So you've got to get around that because it's obvious that's what everybody else is doing.
We're in the same place we were prior to NIL.
Agreed.
I mean, here you go with the NCAA saying this and that are illegal, but people are still going to be doing illegal stuff by the rules. And can the NCAA, can they stop it? Are they going to be able to from a legal standpoint? Because what if a lawyer representing a player who takes a NIL from a school and it was done during the recruiting process? I mean, it sounds to me like the courts and the Supreme Court are going to still say, you can't stop them from taking the money because it was done for recruiting purposes. Mm-hmm. There's no difference in putting the money out front to try to entice you to come versus paying you after the fact, after you've enrolled. NIL is something that was that a term, an acronym that the courts created, or something that the NCAA, the schools have created to give this some identity? I mean, all the courts are basically saying you can go as a student athlete and take advantage of your opportunities to make money, based on your skills. And nobody can stop you from doing that. What's the difference if you're getting it in advance as part of the recruiting process or after the fact, except for the fact that the NCAA is trying to limit the recruiting influence from the NIL standpoint?
Yeah, I don't know how, if you're going to go to what the NCAA has said, and our schools in South Carolina have to operate under that proviso, whereas Florida, the state of Florida, can have Miami dole out, just open up the bank vault and say, how much do you need? There's since the NCAA, in my mind, Phil, doesn't want to do anything about this, has washed its hands of NIL. They're just going to let it go. Then if it's going to be up to the states, then the powers that be in the state have to make it fair for South Carolina, Clemson, Coastal, Furman, anybody to be able to compete with all the other states around the country.
All right, let's hit a break, and we'll come back to your phone calls here on Sports Talk. We're wide open for your calls tonight, so let us hear from you. The phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. And since 2002, more than $572 million in lottery proceeds have been used to fund Palmetto Fellow Scholarships for the state's college-bound students. You can learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. Playing for fun is a win for education. So we'll jump into your phone calls. We'll run with your phone calls for as long as you want to make them on this topic. How about recruiting questions, recruiting comments, recruiting observations? We'll take those as well. And did you watch the race last night in Nashville? Did you stay up through the rain and the storms in Nashville? That's unfortunate to have the first race interrupted like that. Still a good race. Back in a moment. We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR. Of course, hunting is very popular across the state of South Carolina. Major Downer, what things should our hunters be thinking about before they get out in the fields?
It seems like every other show we're talking about hunting safety of some sort. Whether it's turkey season or deer season, hunters always need to be aware of the target. Make sure before you pull that trigger that you know what you're looking at. Whether it's a turkey during turkey season or a deer during deer season, you know your identifying features of your game. You know what's beyond that target in case you miss.
Learn more about the great outdoors in South Carolina with Major Billy Downer on SC Wild here on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
Independence Day is coming. Is there a better way to spend 4th of July weekend than listening to good music, eating some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, enjoying an ice cold beverage, and watching baseball? Oh, did we mention we'll have 2 of the biggest fireworks shows in Segra Park history? Join the Fireflies for Fireworks with the Phil presented by Prisma Health July 2nd and a game against the Pelicans July 4th. Tickets are available now at firefliestickets.com.
All right, back with you on Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut's back after being gone Friday. Phil Kornblut, earthquake survivor on Saturday night. I was sitting up trying to catch up on things Saturday night. I had a lot of family stuff over the weekend that had me busy. And all of a sudden, it's about 1:35 in the morning, place starts shaking, and you hear this thing sounds like a freight train going by. And it lasted long enough to where, in my head, I'm thinking, how long is this going to last? This wasn't one of those little quickie 2 or 3 second things. This is one of those things that kind of went on for a second where you thought, when's this thing going to stop? Survived it. as did a lot of everybody else, thank goodness, and no major damage. But I put out a tweet 1:35 in the morning, said, hey, I think we just had an earthquake in Northeast Columbia, and people all over the state started responding. Yeah, I felt it here in Aiken. I felt it here in Greenville and Red Bank and all other parts. So I thought maybe Beamer had put out another commitment alert late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, but no, it was an earthquake here in the northeast part of Columbia that we have
What did I
survived
say?
once again.
It was the highest magnitude earthquake to hit South Carolina in what, a decade?
Yeah, that was
And there
pretty
were
strong.
several aftershocks afterwards. Yeah, we didn't feel it over here in the PD. Of course, I slept through Hurricane Hugo too, so I'm probably not a good reference point, but nonetheless, yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. Pretty scary. All right, let's get to the phone calls. We got a lot on the table to talk about. Anything else you want to bring up from the weekend that's just passed, or anything else on your mind? Fair game here on Sports Talk. We've hit the end of the recruiting period here in June. It's a dead period now until the last week in July. The kids will be making announcements, and apparently South Carolina received another commitment today that has not yet gone public, as far as we know. Shane Beamer late this afternoon putting out another commitment alert, and they got 2 from over the weekend. We'll go over all that in recruiting coming up. Let's go to the phones. We welcome Hank in Columbia up first tonight here on Sports Talk. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Corn.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to comment on 2 of the things that you mentioned. First, in the NIL deal, I don't know how much, when they put out these numbers, it's $8 million, $9 million. Now, sometimes I kind of look at them with an eye just like the pro contracts when they say this player is going to, in NFL, where they're going to make $300 million over the next 4 years with this new contract, but you find out like only $12 million is guaranteed, and then they got all these other incentives that would take it up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much I buy the $9 million, more so than there may be an opportunity on that end. But I don't know how much it's gonna. I don't know how much it's gonna really. This guy wasn't your Trevor Lawrence, Archie Manning guy. This is a 4-star quarterback. It seemed like both of them wanted. And you remember the big deal last year, all they made about the NIL money for Derek King?
Yes.
And he was a Miami guy, and now he's free agent trying out for receiver in the pros. So, I don't know how much it's going to pay off.
Well, it's a roll of the dice. I mean, you're not guaranteed success with any of this. I mean, but the people who are putting up that kind of money, they've got that kind of money to burn. If you don't make it, they're not going to miss it because they got tons of money. Obviously, they wouldn't be spending it like this. But nothing is guaranteed with any athlete that you're putting money on like that.
And I think it slows. I think as more often than not, that type of thing slows down. You won't see these big, huge offers. You'll see the decent offers like the Texas. Every lineman gets $50,000.
I don't know,
stuff like that.
As you pointed out, if a so-called 4-star, I don't give any clout to star rankings. Okay, somebody thinks the guy is really good. He could have gone anywhere in the country. Why? I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about the star ranking, but if somebody thinks he's worth over $11 million for an NIL deal, as somebody apparently did at Florida, and the guy at Miami's willing to cough up $9.5 million, they're not going to throw it away. And we said this back when.
It's always coming from the attorney, though, Corn.
Well, you're right. He could be totally fabricating this. I don't know. There seems to be enough verification from the various media reports to add some credibility to what's being thrown out there. But let me say this. You say, it's just going to be a little here, a little there. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I can remember clearly when, for example, this is kind of a different, this is an orange compared to that apple. But when they first came out televising high school football games, and they said, just be a little here, a little there. Right. Now you got hundreds of them being televised Friday, Saturday night, all times of the week. When they started playing college games on Thursday night, and they said, be just a little bit here, a little bit there. And now you got them on Tuesday nights. You got them on Wednesday nights. You got them on Thursdays. You're playing college games on Friday. My point is, when it comes to college sports, there's no such thing as a little thing. It might start off with a drip, and then it becomes a waterfall. And so you're going to have more and more and more high elite quarterbacks in particular who are going to demand this kind of money, and they're going to get it because the NIL situation and the way this is set up is going to allow them to get it. So it's going to grow. It's going to be more and more people. I don't have any doubt about it. We got to hit a break, but great hearing from you as always. And we'll continue with your phone calls on the other side. And I'll read you. There's a few really good quotes from this On3 story about this quarterback going to Miami and the NIL deal that he apparently has to go there, and apparently turned away, according to his attorney, over $2 million from Florida and the Florida collective that allegedly was involved here. And we'll continue with your phone calls after the break.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107
And here's
The
tonight's
Point.
forecast. Down to 71 is our low. Tomorrow, we gear up for another day with high humidity and a good bet. Rain in the afternoon. Only 84 as our Tuesday high. But a 50% chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Similar conditions the rest of the week with highs in the mid to upper 80s and rain chances around 50% every day this week. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. Summer's here and it's time to add to your family. It's time to bring home a dog or cat from Columbia Animal Services. For a fee of only $35, get a new family friend and save an animal at the same time. The fee includes spay and neutering, vaccinations, and an exam from the staff's vet. You can adopt, foster, or just make a donation. Call 776-PETS. That's 776-7387. Or find Columbia Animal Services on social media. Look online at petfinder.com to see them. Now is the time. Adopt, foster, donate. Columbia Animal Services.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
I'm already a big fan of Medicare Blueprint. Tim and his team saved me several $1,000s. They took a look at my health insurance. They helped me get the best possible plan. But not long ago, I reached out when we had a crisis. The big bad insurance company out of nowhere just canceled Mom's medicine for her multiple sclerosis. No warning, 30 years, same med, and just like that, gone. Here's the good news. Medicare Blueprint doesn't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. They're local. Imagine me trying to get this fixed, calling some national toll-free number. Outsourced operators never talk to the same person twice. Medicare Blueprint went to work, helped me get Mom's meds back, and how's this? Even less expensively than we were paying before. Incredible customer service and local. What a great formula. Oh, and it cost me nothing for their services. Nothing. Whether you're on Medicare or not, my mom is, I'm not. Medicare Blueprint help both of us. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
Desperate lies and dirty campaign tricks. Ellen Weaver and her gang of special interests are willing to say anything to deceive voters. Why? They don't want voters to know the truth. The fact is, Ellen is not legally qualified for office. Ellen's lack of experience makes it easy for Democrats to take over our schools, whether she loses at the ballot box or is disqualified by an activist judge. Kathy Maness is the only teacher and the only one qualified in the Republican runoff for education.
Paid for by Kathy Maness.
When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts, AARP, on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Well, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer? That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
We are back on Sports Talk Media Network. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornblut, Pat Daniel, here at our Columbia studios, and Chris Bergen from his studios in the PD between Sardis and Timmonsville and Lamar and Darlington, kind of all in that area, that sprawling area of the PD.
It's the Bermuda Triangle of the PD.
Hope you've had a great day. We appreciate you joining us. 888-898-2525 is our number. We'll get into recruiting coming up. South Carolina feeling really good about itself right now. Coming off the weekend, looking at some of the social media responses from some of the players they've been recruiting. They got a chance to add some really fine players to the list. If they hold as people think, like Trayon Webb, the running back from Jacksonville, that looks like it could be South Carolina beating out Florida, beating out Penn State for him when he announces in 3 days on the 30th. We'll go into detail on all that in recruiting. We'll hold that till a little bit after 7, give us plenty of time to dive into that, because you know it's a Monday after. It's going to be long. It's going to be meaty. It's going to be juicy, just like a daily luncheon buffet at Seawells, which sponsors our recruiting. You know, that's long and delicious and meaty and juicy, just like the recruiting report. Right now, though, we get back to your phone calls. Love to hear what you have to add to the program, and we'll drop in a few other notes as well, because we got some interesting stuff to talk about. Up to Greenville, we travel next. Rocky, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you, sir? Good to have you with us.
I'm doing well, Phil. Hope you are.
Yes, sir.
First, this is a recruiting call, but I got to say, I don't recall that ACDC was scheduled for Columbia this weekend. So, ha, if you caught that.
I'm trying to catch it. Help me out, Pat. What am I missing here? What's the punchline? ACDC. Was that our bumper? Did we play?
No, You Shook Me All Night Long. One of their songs. You were talking about the earthquake in Columbia.
Oh, I got you. Did you feel it up in Greenville?
No, man. I sleep hard, and no.
I hear you.
No, didn't feel anything. But I've seen. There's been so many in Columbia. I'm from Columbia. Lived there most all of my life, but all the folks I know, all the time I'm seeing, okay, another tremor, another earthquake, another. I mean, I see it all the time.
I guess we're just waiting on the big one.
Well, maybe so. I don't know. We're all waiting on the big one, Phil. We just don't know when that's going to happen.
That's right. That's
right. Recruiting, and this is going to be somewhat of a bass-backwards kind of a call in recruiting, because I say that in that I know you all the time and energy and effort that you've always put into it all through the years. Let me tell you something, Phil. I could care less about recruiting. I don't care how many stars they have and all that. If any starts recruiting, I'll listen to your show. If you start talking about recruiting, in many cases, I'm just going to change the channel till you're done. However, and with social media, and now, you can't help but see this and that with respect to Shane Beamer in South Carolina and his recruiting efforts. Even just seeing the players that he's after are in these players' final 3, 4, 5, something like that. I gotta say, it's raised an eyebrow, and it seems like that he's really getting after it, and so it's raised my eyebrow a little bit. Now I'm still not gonna care about stars or anything, but I am looking, okay, if he's interested in a player, or a player announces, well, here are my final 3 or my final 5, and South Carolina's in it, or that kind of thing, then he's obviously making some inroads. So I'm pretty impressed, actually.
Well, let me say this about that, and thank you for your phone call. Really appreciate it. Great hearing from you. I mean, the book is still out on Shane Beamer as a football coach. He and his staff did an excellent job last year, winning 6 in the regular season in the bowl game to get him to 7 wins. But I think still, we still have to see where it goes from a coaching standpoint, because we've seen in recent years where a coach gets off to a good start and it just all falls apart 2 or 3 years in. Muschamp, remember, won 9 games and beat Michigan in his second year. Brad Scott won a bowl game in his first year and it fell apart. However, that being said, Shane Beamer as a head coach is one of the most energetic, enthusiastic, how can I word this, teenage-like, and I'm saying that as a compliment, not as a negative. Teenage-like.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
it really is.
Teenage-like head coach in college football. His enthusiasm, his energy, his passion for his program, and apparently, from what we can tell from the outside, the genuine love for every player, staff member, coach, everybody in that building comes through, and it appears to be real. And he has been like that since day one that he took the job. I think he realized, having been at South Carolina once before, and now coming back a few years later, that it was going to take a long, hard, driven effort on the inside to change perception and to change the culture, whatever culture happens to mean within a program, to change that in another direction. I don't know what the culture was at Muschamp under Muschamp, but Muschamp was his way with his attitude and his approach, and Beamer is his way with his attitude and his approach. And his way and his approach seems to be winning over a lot of families right now. You don't hear anything coming out of a player who's visited South Carolina where you don't hear things about family, love, togetherness, and just a great feeling, I hate to copy what they're saying, but that welcome home feeling, which is something that Beamer orchestrated there when he took over and started doing the recruiting side of things for South Carolina. And again, positive is what he preaches. It's from the Dabo Sweeney playbook of selling your football program that worked at Clemson. And will it work at South Carolina in terms of getting players? And I would say that they're putting together a good-looking class. They have a chance to add a big-time quarterback on July 5th in Dylan Lonergan. We'll talk about that coming up. I mean, that's a chance. I don't know if it's an absolute. Maybe that's the call he got today. I don't know. That would be a big one for them in the class. There's a 2024 quarterback who's big time, Dante Reno, who, appears ready to join them in the 24 class at some point. So they're bringing in a lot of good players. This Howard kid they got today appears to be special. 150 some odd tackles last year, makes plays all over the field. Kind of reminds me, just looking at him, it reminds me of a Sky Moore type of player when he was at South Carolina. Just makes plays all over the field. So he has done one heck of a job in changing the thinking and the internal attitude, the culture, if you want to call that, over at South Carolina. That will help you a lot. It's still got to be done on Saturdays. And can he go to Arkansas and beat Arkansas in the second week of the season, then turn around and beat Georgia at home the third week of the season, and then on and on and on? That's where you put the rubber to the road and you separate the men from the boys.
Well, and I think you bring up 2 really key games for them, I think. But even if they don't win both of those, if they split those 2, and I think the Arkansas game you would think is the more logical of the 2, even though it's on the road. But nonetheless, don't you feel like, though, with all the recruiting momentum they've gotten right now, especially coming off this past weekend, that they've got to at least show some progress in the fall, because these kids haven't signed? And they could easily change their mind if the roof collapses on USC football this fall and they win 2 games. So I think this is a big upcoming fall for them, just to be able to continue that momentum that they built. And it's fairly obvious that the win over North Carolina in the bowl game was a lot bigger, I think, Phil, than maybe we even realized at the time.
Yes, absolutely. And I think they've done a nice job taking advantage of that performance in that ball game and winning that game, even though North Carolina turned out to be not great shakes. That was an impressive win, an impressive offensive performance for them, and it really kind of got the tone set for their offseason and moving in the right direction. So I 2 thumbs up for what they're doing over there, because they're having to overcome a lot. Obviously, they don't have a lot of tradition. They don't have a lot of great history, and they're competing against the best teams in the country in the SEC. And, oh, yeah, you got to compete against Clemson as well for players, though they don't go head-to-head over that many players. They're doing a really good job of identifying players that like what they have to sell and then selling those players on coming to South Carolina. And now, whether or not they're fooling everybody like you and me and the Gamecock fans with their social media presence, they're certainly heavy in that area, constantly putting out the propaganda about the program, which is what the social media team is all about. Build it up, make coaches look like this and make coaches look like that and make the players this and that and make the internal workings look like that. I mean, that's part of the whole deal, is creating the image. That is all great. But again, if you don't beat Kentucky, and if you struggle against Vanderbilt, and if you get handled by Georgia and Arkansas, and, they start peeling back the onion at that point, and it gets really, the layers get very thin then, and you get down to see what you're really all about in the meat and potatoes.
Well, the problem is these are the guys that can change that sort of narrative that they're bringing in now and continuing to try and recruit. But to get those guys from commitment day to signing day, I think is what they'll be able to do from September through November. And that's why maybe they don't have to improve greatly. They don't have to go from 6 regular season wins, 7 overall, to, say, 10 this upcoming fall. But they can't take 2 big steps back, because then they might start losing some of this recruiting class. They might sign elsewhere, and then you're trying to continue to build and build and build. They need a solid year this year so they can bring this class in and then build off that class going into 2023.
Now, you got to put class on top of class on top of class. But, I mean, you're right. You bring up the reminder about the transfer portal, John, and the one-time free transfer, and how that's still going to eat away at recruiting classes that you happen to put together. I mean, they might look good on signing day, but how many of them are going to hit the road for whatever reason, after that first season in town, and cut away at the quality recruiting you did in that particular class? Back after the break.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
I learned that people are just looking for somebody to listen to them. You can't just start cutting somebody's hair and you're going to be quiet the whole time because you're not going to be in business long.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has provided over $800 million to help students attend technical colleges across our state, investing in a new generation of entrepreneurs, just like James. Your passion is our purpose.
Open lines for you, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. If you want to join us, love to have you on with us tonight. want to remind you that it is summertime now officially in South Carolina. You want to get away from the heat and the humidity and cool off and have a great getaway vacation. Head down to Pawleys Island, head down to Garden City, head down to Surfside, Georgetown, all those areas, and give Jimmy Smith a call at James Smith Realty at 843-237-4246 or visit PawleysVacationRentals.com. Of course, that's a beautiful part of South Carolina, and Jimmy is a beautiful guy. He'll take care of you, whatever your needs happen to be, big or small, lengthy or short. You just give him a call and say, Jimmy, this is what I got. This is what I need. And if you want to buy some property, if you want to buy some dirt, Jimmy's the dirt man down there. He'll give you some dirt, some great dirt along the coast. 843-237-4246, the number. That's 843-237-4246. Your perfect beach vacation getaway is just that simple. Give Jimmy Smith a call at James Smith Realty right there in Pawleys Island. All right. Our phone numbers, 888-898-2525. You can reach us here on Sports Talk. So, of course, I was gone on Friday, and I had to chuckle at the story that came out of USC and the football camps, and Antonio Williams, the former Dutch Fork star receiver who's going to Clemson. And, South Carolina recruited him heavily, but he chose to go to Clemson. And he shows up to watch his Dutch Fork team play in a 7-on-7 there at the USC indoor facility. And Murphy Holloway, his stepdad, puts out a tweet that the son was escorted out, wasn't doing anything wrong, was escorted out. And the mother put out a tweet as well. And I just sort of chuckled. I said, there you go. This is good summertime rivalry stuff, And I just thought the whole thing was really kind of strange how it was being handled on social media. But then again, what isn't kind of strange when handled on social media? Ben Portnoy from the State put out a story. I think it was on Saturday, whatever June 24th was. Maybe I'm a day off. I think it was Saturday. And he had a source at South Carolina tell him the story from their perspective. And it sounds like it was pretty benign to me, the whole deal. Williams wasn't acting up, wasn't doing anything out of line. He was there watching his team early that morning, playing a 7-on-7. And apparently a handful of Gamecock players who were there were not happy that he was there. And they asked Shane Beamer to ask him to leave. And according to the story, Beamer and Williams had a brief, cordial conversation, and he departed, Williams did, without issue. And Beamer later called Dabo Swinney and Dutch Fork coach Tom Knotts, according to the source telling Ben Portnoy. And there you go. The camps are open to the public. Usually there are some media people there, some supporters, high school coaches, current Gamecock players for their camps. I guess you could have some stragglers come in there as well. So, I mean, it's sort of an odd deal. I don't know why the players would be upset unless they felt like this is a Clemson guy. He doesn't need to be here. If Clemson, Clemson has camps. They don't have the 7-on-7 stuff, I don't think, that South Carolina does, but they have camps that people can walk into and watch. I wonder if some Gamecock player up in the upstate was home and walked over to watch the Swinney camp going on, would they be asked to leave because they're simply a Gamecock player? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it was that agitated the players that went to Beamer, but there was no, to create the image that there was some kind of flare-up between Beamer and Antonio Williams. That seems to be misleading. It seems to be so. And this is here, Beamer, again, standing up for his players and understanding that, hey, if that's what you guys want, then I'll take care of it. And if you guys are uncomfortable that he's here for whatever reason, then I'll take care of it. So I'm sure in their eyes, that's another feather in his cap for him standing up for their rights.
Well, I was curious. I'm glad you pointed out. I didn't know if the 7-on-7s, which, by the way, could not be a more boring event to go watch. It's like a baseball game without the infield. It makes zero sense. I get it. It helps the wide receivers, but why in the world you'd want to go watch? But that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make zero sense for Shane Beamer and the USC coaching staff to try and upset Tom Knotts and Dutch Fork, wouldn't it? You're talking about one of the dominant programs in our state. And to be fair, Friday we did reach out to Murphy Holloway and asked him if he'd like to come on the program on Friday evening to clarify some of his comments. He said he didn't want to. And wanted to see it, kind of die down. So I found that odd that you didn't have a problem tweeting it out. But then when you're given an opportunity to come explain your side of the coin, you didn't want to do that. So I just thought the whole story, I'm like you, Phil, it seemed odd. And there were so many missing pieces early because all we heard was Antonio Williams' side of the coin, or at least his parents' side of the coin. And I was glad that Ben was able to dig in and find out from South Carolina's side of the coin. And very impressed that Shane Beamer would call both Tom Knotts and Dabo Swinney to explain what happened.
Sure. The tweet from Murphy, for those who might not remember, he said, quote, "They kicked my son out of the facility today when he was watching DF play. It's all love, though," end quote. So technically, kicked out, that makes it sound like, they grabbed him by the collar and they threw him out. No, they asked him to leave. Some players were, for whatever reason, not happy that he was there, and they asked him to leave. And now his mother, Courtney Holloway, also put out I guess this was on Instagram, that was put on Twitter. So she wrote, if you haven't seen it, quote, "Never would have thought the mere presence of my kid would be offensive, but here we are." The article only got one side. She writes, "He was approached by the head coach of an SEC program whilst alone without an adult at the age of 17 and called classless." Fortunately, she wrote, "Antonio was, in fact, raised with class and left respectively and didn't engage, which is more than I can say for a certain fan base on Twitter. All because he made a decision to go elsewhere. And not that it's anyone's business, but did not ghost staff. In fact, communicated with them up until hours before he committed and still communicates with current players on their roster, despite the article's account." I'm not sure exactly which article she's referring to, maybe something on Twitter that somebody wrote. And again, you got stuff happening on Twitter, social media, and I don't know. It would shock me if Shane Beamer walked up to the kid and called him classless.
Yeah,
that
makes
would be
no sense.
That would seem out of context. That would seem out of nature. And then call up Dabo Swinney and call up Tom Knotts, apparently, to make sure everything is cool and smoothed over. I think you got some miscommunications, misinformation going on here. Ben's story seems to be, even though it's coming from South Carolina sources and they're going to try to spin it as best they can for their side, that does seem to make a little bit more sense to me than anything else I've read.
Agreed. And if you're going to get all your news and stuff off social media, Twitter is basically the National Enquirer in electronic form, is what it has turned out to be. And that's why, quite frankly, Phil, on Friday night, Pat and Matt and I were a little uncomfortable talking about the story because we only had one side of it. And now that Ben's come out and talked to South Carolina sources, so we get both sides of the coin, and now you can figure out what you want. But if you wanted to, and this was so predictable. As soon as the story came out, you knew exactly what was going to happen. Gamecock fans would jump on social media and say how proud they were of their coach for kicking out a Clemson commit. Clemson folks would jump on Twitter and say how ridiculous it is that South Carolina's gotten that petty under Shane Beamer. And then the parents are going to defend their son, which is all exactly what you expect. And like you pointed out at the outset of this segment, it's perfect rivalry fodder in the late days of June.
I can promise you one thing, and one thing only. Given the chance, come late November at Death Valley, if Dabo Swinney can get a play called for Antonio Williams to score a touchdown against South Carolina, that's going to happen.
No doubt.
If I'm the Gamecocks and Antonio Williams is on the field, I'm double teaming him. He is not catching the football, but he is a great talent now. Look,
oh yeah, he's terrific.
We haven't talked a lot about him, and with their injury situation at wide receiver, he'll have a chance to come in. They moved in, players moved in at both places over the weekend, and he should have a chance to go in there and earn some snaps. If he can pick up the system, he's got unbelievable talent. Watching him in the state championship game, he's at the high school level, he was the little bit that I did see him was uncoverable by those, and he was playing high level high school football. pretty much uncoverable, and then extremely dangerous with the football in his hands. Great bolt. He catches the ball and boom, he's gone. So, they've stashed this away, and if they get the chance, they might not get the chance, but if they get the chance, he's going to call up a play to get him in the end zone. So anyway, a little bit of fun, just a little bit of fun between the Gamecocks and the Tigers. We would expect nothing less. Hit the break here at the top of the hour. We'll come back with the recruiting report for you. More of your phone calls. John Kosas from the Fireflies as well. Sports Talk Monday night, Sports Talk Media Network.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. There are reports of injuries and fatalities following an Amtrak train derailment in Missouri.
An Amtrak train, the Southwest Chief, which was traveling from Los Angeles to Chicago, derailed in Missouri this afternoon after colliding with a dump truck. An Amtrak spokeswoman says the collision occurred near Mendon, Missouri, which is about 84 miles northeast of Kansas City. The Missouri Highway Patrol said 8 cars derailed. Initial reports indicate some people aboard were injured. The train was carrying about 243 passengers. I'm Mike Gracia.
Legal battles over abortion are taking place in state courthouses across the country now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned by the Supreme Court. Today, a Utah judge temporarily blocked that state's near-total abortion ban, and in Louisiana, a judge in New Orleans temporarily blocked enforcement of the state's trigger law ban on abortion. Also at srnnews.com, a religious freedom victory at the Supreme Court, where justices ruled in favor of a high school coach who prayed at midfield after football games.
The court ruled 6-3 along ideological lines for the coach. The justices said the coach's prayer was protected by the First Amendment. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote for the majority, quote, "The Constitution and the best of our traditions counsel mutual respect and tolerance, not censorship and suppression for religious and non-religious views alike." The case forced the justices to wrestle with how to balance the religious and free speech rights of teachers and coaches with the rights of students not to feel pressured into participating in religious practices. The outcome could strengthen the acceptability of some religious practices in the public school setting. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Leaders of the world's 7 leading economies pledging continued support for Ukraine as long as it takes. That was the statement from the G7 summit in Germany earlier today. Stocks down slightly on Wall Street, the Dow off 62. More at townhall.com.
Excuse me, why don't you have life insurance yet?
I've got diabetes, and I know the price will be through the roof for the pre-existing condition.
Well, actually, SelectQuote makes it easy to get very affordable life insurance, even if you have a health issue.
I'm listening.
You'll get quotes from some of the country's most trusted carriers. Even with your diabetes, you can get around $250,000 in insurance for as little as $1 a day.
That would be amazing. What's it called again?
SelectQuote. Just call or go to selectquote.com to get your free quote. Get the coverage you need at a price you can afford. Call 1-800-694-1010 or go to selectquote.com today. That's 1-800-694-1010 or selectquote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Get full details on example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Monthly premiums vary based on health, company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Amazon is providing $23 million to help minority-led organizations build or preserve more than 500 new affordable housing units in Seattle.
The commitment comes from Amazon's Housing Equity Fund, a $2 billion initiative launched in January 2021. The fund has so far invested more than $1.2 billion to create or preserve over 8,000 affordable homes across 3 regions where the company has offices: the Puget Sound in Washington State, Arlington, Virginia, and Nashville, Tennessee. The new investments are the fund's first in Seattle proper. John Scott reports.
The House January 6 panel is calling a surprise hearing tomorrow to present what committee members say is recently obtained evidence. The hearing comes after Congress left Washington for a 2-week recess. and currently the subject of tomorrow's public hearing is unclear. News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107
And here's
The
tonight's
Point.
forecast. Down to 71 is our low. Tomorrow we gear up for another day with high humidity and a good bet rain in the afternoon. Only 84 as our Tuesday high, but a 50% chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Similar conditions the rest of the week with highs in the mid to upper 80s and rain chances around 50% every day this week. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network, Monday edition, the Monday after a very busy weekend. I stand corrected. That was not, at the very beginning when I talked about the race in Nashville, that was not the first NASCAR race there. It's the second NASCAR Cup race there. Right, Chris? They raced there last year?
Correct. Yeah, Larson won last year.
You wanted to correct me on that quite proudly.
That's why I told you off air. I was going to let it go.
Now, you could have nailed me on air. That's fine.
I was just preparing you for tomorrow when we chat with KT.
Yeah.
So you didn't say that again.
I'll probably say it again tomorrow.
What happens on the mile stays on the mile, Phil.
Well, for some reason, I thought it was their first time racing there. I hope I didn't lead into that over the weekend.
It was the first NBC broadcast of the year, so you were half right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they got just
maybe the
hammered by lightning and storms. That thing carried on forever. What time did it wrap up? About 10 o'clock?
Oh, gosh, no. I think they were still going after 11 o'clock last night.
At least they got it in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, NASCAR was going to get it in one way or another. So, I feel badly for the people there when that happens. There really is no more lonely place in sports than a racetrack where it's raining, because there's just nothing to do until they start bringing out the sweepers and the dryers and all that kind of stuff. People get excited when they see those trucks go out on the track.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's just sit there and twiddle your thumbs or drink beer, which I guess is probably okay for a lot of people. Phone number 888-898-2525. We've got recruiting coming up for you here momentarily. It'll be long. I hope our buddy up in the upstate will hang with us. Perhaps he can go out for a walk while he's listening to us, though he doesn't really like recruiting. We invite you to stay with us regardless and enjoy the moment. Just enjoy the moment. And let's go to Jamie in Hilton Head next with us here on Sports Talk. Jamie, great to have you with us. How are you tonight?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Terrific. Great to have you.
Good. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I've got something that has really disturbed me. Now, I've always tried to, when I've called this show, I've always tried to be very complimentary and very as classy as I could be about South Carolina football. I mean, that's very sad that you've got a camp that's open to the public, and a kid, whether you got him or not, hear me out, can't go watch his high school team play. And now I don't know exactly what happened, but is that really a smart move by anybody from South Carolina, given where we are as far as the transfer portal and Dutch Fork High School? What kind of message does that send to Dutch Fork High School? Don't you think there's going to be a kid that USC is going to want from Dutch Fork down the road?
Well, I mean, they've tried to recruit guys out of Dutch Fork, and they haven't had a heck of a lot of success over the years. They had one who committed to them and then decommitted and then went to Tennessee and is now in the NFL. They haven't had a lot of success, but I hear what you're saying. You want to stay on, and Tom Knott's, of course, a Hall of Fame coach. You want to stay on good terms with all those folks. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I'm a little bit puzzled over why this even became a situation. I'm puzzled over why players would be upset. I understand if my players came to me and I'm Beamer, I can understand why he would do what he did. It sounds like, based on Ben Portnoy's story, it wasn't initiated by Beamer. It was his players coming to him, and then he took the action afterwards.
Well, it's almost paternal. If you look at now, you talk about the two coaches. If you go back to the South Carolina Clemson game, I mean, Shane Beamer's son ran to Dabo Swinney's arms. Okay, then it's all over the media. Dabo Swinney picking his son up, and I mean, Dabo Swinney has did everything he could to be as welcoming to Shane Beamer as he can. I mean, what kind of message does that send? I mean, I'd always liked Shane Beamer up until that point. But what kind of message does that send to kids?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, every kid will have to interpret it on their own. I understand what you're saying.
Come on.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know what it was the players were peeved about, except that it was a player that spurned them for Clemson. It wasn't like, I mean, they had other players, I'm sure, come through their camp who are committed to other schools that South Carolina had recruited, either guys who are playing 7-on-7 or who came through the camp and already made decisions to go somewhere else.
You don't think Tevin Feaster spurned Clemson for South Carolina?
He did eventually,
I mean,
yeah.
Absolutely. After he had played there. I mean, but we still welcomed him back when he came back to celebrate the championship. I mean, come on. And I mean, you know what? This is completely on Shane Beamer. He should have went to his players and said, "No, guys, we're not going to do this." You know, it's not about the kid. This is completely on Shane Beamer, and completely. And it just, I mean, just very fitting for the Gamecock program to do something like this. I'm sorry, but I'm very upset, and I've always tried to be as classy as I can be, but this has really upset me.
All right, thanks very much. I appreciate your phone call. I don't know. He could have turned a deaf ear and just said, "Nah, guys, let it lie. No big deal. As long as there's nothing, going on." But I mean, maybe
hear that, Phil,
how much of what the mother said is that she tweeted? How much of that is accurate? And we didn't get that in Ben's story because his sources were South Carolina people.
Well, and like I said, when Murphy turned us down on Friday, it threw up a red flag for me. How much of this was overblown? And also on the flip side, Shane Beamer probably could have, but who would you rather upset, your current roster or a commitment who's going to another school? I mean, to me, it's an easy call. I agree with the caller in some regards. I think the Tavian Feaster example is a little overblown because he did play at Clemson for 4 years before he transferred.
Well, and he chose to transfer.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not that's apples to oranges. But with that being said, I get him a little bit because it sounds on the surface as really, really petty, but we may never actually get the full.
It's
story.
a he said, she said sort of thing here. I don't think. I mean, unless there was a media, and there were media people there, but they didn't report on it. There were media people there covering that event. There were pictures coming out first thing that morning. It was noted, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw one of the media guys' reports that Antonio Williams was there watching his team. But nobody picked up on him having an issue or players having an issue or Shane Beamer either asking him to leave or walking him out. I don't know. Nobody reported that. It would never have been made public or come out, I don't think, until Murphy Holloway put it out on Twitter. That was the starting point for this whole thing, was it not?
Best I could tell. That was the first I'd heard from it.
Pat, what you got?
I was debating whether to add anything, but because we're giving life to this. Personally, I don't find it that intriguing of a story. It is nice to talk about something with the rivalry during the offseason.
It's July.
Exactly. But,
almost.
But what I will add is what makes it not feel overly important or a big deal to me is the fact that in this day and age, when everybody has a camera in their pocket and social media, and every single one of those young men and women in the crowd had a cell phone in their pocket and was recording stuff, there's not any video of this. No video on Twitter, no video on social media. That right there tells me, is it really that big of a deal?
You're saying if it had gotten ugly,
we would know.
If there were an ugly exchange. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't think, and I don't pretend to know Coach Beamer on any kind of personal level. I've spoken to him 3 or 4 times ever. And he seems like a nice guy, though. I find it very difficult to believe that he would walk up to a 17, 18-year-old young man and call him classless to his face. I just find that very hard to believe. And he also seems like a very sharp man, talking about Coach Beamer, and he knows about the perils of recruiting, the perils of the transfer portal. Chris made a great point a minute ago. You'd rather upset a prospect than a current player in your locker room because you don't want to risk ostracizing your players. But I just can't see him making any comments like that. That just seems so hard to believe to me. So again, if it had been ugly, if any altercation had taken place, we'd have video of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And why would he call him classless? Even if Shane used those words, what Antonio Williams was doing would have brought the word classless up. Did he happen to go watch his team? I mean, that makes no sense
idea.
either.
I mean, again, Gamecock fans on social media. Let me just say this. Generally speaking, let me say this. Generally speaking, as I think we all know, fan bases across the world, when they lose a player, they concoct stories about why that player didn't come to their school. Now, the favorite thing to do is concoct a NIL payment story. Well, we didn't get him because we didn't pay him enough NIL. We got outbid. That's going to be the excuse now from school A to school B to school C with the fan bases. They concoct stories. And here, apparently, according to the fan base, the USC fan base that goes on social media, I'm not saying everybody, but those who go to social media and transmit this kind of stuff, you saw where the mother said he didn't ghost the Gamecock coaches, meaning he didn't stop communicating with them. That seemed to be the thing on the Gamecock fan base social media, was that they recruited him hard and had him in for visits and did everything, and then he stopped communicating with them, and next thing they know, he's committed to Clemson. And, she's denying that. If it were true that he stopped communicating with them all of a sudden and just went cold on them and committed to Clemson without having any interaction with them and communicating with them after they had been recruiting him all this time, and they had been recruiting him a long time. He was one of the first ones when Justin Stepp came to South Carolina. He was one of the first ones that Stepp went after real hard and heavy for South Carolina. And if he cut off communications, maybe that was viewed as a classless move by them, if that indeed was the case. I don't know. I just, I don't know. I don't know what the truth is. It's somewhere in the middle for sure. And, but Pat's right. And I only bring it up just to point out in a laughable sort of way that it's just another funny incident between South Carolina and Clemson, which makes the rivalry super special. And despite Greg Sankey's best efforts to kill the rivalry, it lives on, Greg. Did you see that, Greg? It lives on. You can't kill it. Okay, you might have tried 1 year, SEC commissioner, but it's still alive and thumping, and it's not going away. We got to hit a break.
Phil,
go ahead.
To your point quickly,
Yeah.
Jamie, for every Jamie on the Clemson side of the coin, there's a Jamie on the South Carolina side that's yelling at the radio right now, telling him why he's wrong.
So it makes the world go round.
Yep.
All right, we got to hit the break. We got to come back with the recruiting. We got a lot of good stuff. We'll get to that after the break, and we'll continue with your phone calls as well. John Kosa's coming up from the Fireflies. Phone number, 888-898-2525. We'll continue in a moment.
Independence Day is coming. Is there a better way to spend 4th of July weekend than listening to good music, eating some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, enjoying an ice cold beverage, and watching baseball? Oh, did we mention we'll have 2 of the biggest fireworks shows in Segra Park history? Join the Fireflies for Fireworks with the Phil presented by Prisma Health July 2nd and a game against the Pelicans July 4th. Tickets are available now at firefliestickets.com.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
Life. It has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
Time for the recruiting report tonight, brought to you by Seawells. I hope you enjoyed Chris's rendition of the recruiting report. Or did you let Smitty do it on Friday night? I know you guys like to fight. Y'all fight over who gets to do it when Daddy's gone.
Well, Pat actually turned both our mics off, and he did it himself. So to show the control that Pat Daniel
you would have
has
only
on the
gotten
program.
Clemson recruiting news if Pat had done it. You know,
We had some Ole Miss stuff in there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't forget Ole Miss now. Come on.
Well, I am happy and proud to present tonight's recruiting report, brought to you by Seawells, and of course the daily luncheon buffet at Seawells, off and running this week from 11 to 2. We recommend it highly. You're in the Columbia area. You live in Columbia. You work in Columbia. You're coming to Columbia. Make the move. Make the move over to Seawells on Rosewood Drive, across from the State Fairgrounds. If you're coming down Rosewood, just look for the Rocket, all right, in the State Fairgrounds. And Seawells is right across the street from the Rocket. Everybody knows where the Rocket is in the fairgrounds, so it's very easy to find, and you will not be disappointed in a daily luncheon buffet. In fact, Pat, do we have a menu breakdown for tomorrow?
We do, Corn. Tomorrow, Tuesday, June the 28th, will be carved turkey with cornbread dressing. So a little bit of Thanksgiving feel on a Tuesday, along with southern fried chicken and Italian sausage with grilled peppers and onions. Then, of course, you have your salad, all your sides, and dessert.
Something for everyone. The daily luncheon buffet at Seawells, and, of course, the very best in the catering business, that's Seawells as well. 803-771-7385 is their phone number. For their menu options, SeawellsCateringSC.com. Let Seawells help make your event a memorable experience. All right, so now the Gamecocks today got, they knew, I guess they knew, certainly they knew, this was one of two alerts that Beamer sent out yesterday. Linebacker Grayson Pup Howard, 6'3", 223, Jacksonville. And that's a big pickup for the Gamecocks. I mean, I think every player is a big pickup, and in time we'll find out how big they happen to be. But this one in particular is a guy that they've been going after very hard. He made 9 trips to USC during the recruiting process. So there was a lot of interest both ways from the get, and this is a player that South Carolina had to beat out. A lot of big-time schools. He listed his Final Four as USC, Clemson, Georgia, Florida, and Texas A&M. And that's really 5. Corn, if you could count, you'd know that was 5 and not 4. So his Final 5 were USC, Clemson, Georgia, Florida, and Texas A&M. He put out an announcement video today that was very impressive. And in that video, he said, quote, "A place where I can grow and create change and create history is real big for me, and bring guys up with you. I'm looking for a place that has the fans, that has a support system, and has the energy to uplift, and this place does it from every single aspect. Love is definitely the word for this place. I knew this place is what I wanted and what I needed," he continued. "At that exact moment, I knew this was home," end quote. Had a sensational junior season with 157 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. That's now 11 confirmed commitments for the Gamecocks. There's another one out there this evening to be confirmed that Beamer sent out the alert. And I know there's one out there for the 2024 class that's yet to be claimed. Otherwise, I think they're up to date on the 23 commitment alerts. Now, on Sunday, receiver C.J. Adams committed publicly, 6'3", 210, Mapleton, Georgia. And he's a guy that's been favoring the Gamecocks. He had told us in our last conversation with him last week that he was looking to commit, just didn't know when he was going to do it. So he did it after his official visit Sunday afternoon. 54 receptions last season, 936 yards, and 11 touchdowns. They like his size, his big play potential, his physicality. Feels like he'll fit great into the offense. He also had offers from Duke, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Memphis, East Carolina, UConn, Louisville, Cincinnati, Purdue, USF. His only other official visit in June was to Maryland. Defensive tackle T.J. Searcy of Thomaston, Georgia, 6'5", 250, was among the official visitors to USC over the weekend. That was the last of his 4 officials in June. The first 3 were Clemson, Florida, and Tennessee. This afternoon, Searcy announced a top 4 of USC, Clemson, Florida, and Tennessee. Not yet given a timeline for an announcement. Defensive end Shandavian Bradley of Platte City, Missouri, also in for his official to USC over the weekend. Today, he named a final 3 of USC, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. Took official visits in June to USC and Texas A&M, and he took an unofficial to Tennessee in May. Again, no date yet for an announcement from him. Camden defensive end Xavier McLeod took an official to Michigan over the weekend, answering questions from followers on his Instagram today. McLeod said he would be committing, quote, soon, and he also said he would go to home games at LSU and Michigan this season. Former Clemson running back DeMarcus Bowman, who left the Tigers for Florida, is now headed to UCF. You see, this is one. I mean, there's examples. There's many of them. But this is one where you had a high-starred kid come to Clemson who was supposed to be the next great thing and didn't make it past the first couple of games. Then he goes to Florida where they thought he was going to be the guy carrying the mail there. And now he's going to UCF. I mean, he keeps stepping down the ladder, so to speak. But you just never know. Another former Clemson
in interstate commerce again.
I guess.
This is what all these guys major in.
Another former Clemson running back, Lynn J. Dixon, who transferred to West Virginia in the offseason, has gone back into the portal, John. Never played a snap for the Mountaineers. So an NCAA mandated dead period is now in place until the final week of July. The latest run of official and unofficial, I'm the one that's supposed to say that, are done. For many prospects, it also means they're done with recruiting. They're ready to announce if they haven't done so already. There'll be a flurry of announcements for USC and Clemson prospects coming up over the next 2 weeks. Here's a rundown. So June 30th, running back Trayon Webb, he's coming off his official to USC. He also took officials to Florida and Penn State. On July 1, safety Braylon Johnson, coming off an official to Virginia Tech where his dad played. He took an official to USC as well. On July 1, defensive end Jabron Harvey took officials to USC, Oklahoma, North Carolina, and Louisville. By the way, if you want me to offer up guesses on these guys, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, I think Webb looks good for South Carolina. Some think Penn State, but coming off the visit to South Carolina, it looks promising. Johnson coming off the visit to Virginia Tech probably looks good for the Hokies. Harvey, been hard to read. Oklahoma, South Carolina, North Carolina, Louisville, don't really know. July 4th, Zechariah Owens, offensive tackle. His only official was to Clemson June 3rd, so you can pretty much assume that one's done for the Tigers. July 5th, defensive end Keldrick Falk took officials to Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Tennessee, and Auburn. And July 8th, Peter Woods, defensive tackle, took officials to Clemson and Florida. He also has Alabama and Oklahoma Final Four. A lot of people think Clemson's going to pull him out of Alabama. We shall see. 2 in-state prospects have announcement dates coming up. Wren safety Trevon West is Wednesday, coming off an official to Indiana. And safety Thomas Williams of Powdersville announces July 4th. Virginia Tech, his lone official. Safety Jaden Robinson, who was at USC over the weekend, named the top 4 of USC, Kentucky, Maryland, and Michigan. USC target cornerback R.J. Johnson committed to Arkansas. Safety Dakari Nelson, who was a Clemson target, committed to Penn State. Clemson's out of contention for defensive tackle Darren Reed, who's down to Ohio State and LSU per 24/7 Sports. He was at Ohio State last weekend, announces July 4th. According to a story by the Nebraska 24/7 sports site, USC's out of the running for running back Dontavius Braswell, who's down to Alabama, Nebraska, Boston College, and Oregon, coming off an official to Boston College. He took an official to USC the weekend of June 10th, which leads me to believe even stronger that South Carolina is going to get Trayon Webb. Maybe they told Braswell they've already got the guy they want at running back. We shall see. USC target wide receiver London Humphreys of Nashville took an official to Vanderbilt over the weekend. He had considered coming to the Gamecocks cookout on Saturday. He's now looking to visit USC the last week of July. At least 4 key targets in the 24 class were at that cookout at USC Saturday. Quarterback Dante Reno, receiver Mazio Bennett, offensive tackle Blake Franks, and offensive tackle Fletcher Westphal. Now, you want to see a funny picture. Westphal is 6'8", 330. There's a picture of him standing next to Shane Beamer. You got to go look it up on Twitter. I mean, it really is like big and small. I mean, Westphal, who's from Leesburg, Virginia, he left USC with an offer, by the way. Clemson's also offered him. He's a very good player. A few more notes coming up after the break. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107
And here's
The
tonight's
Point.
forecast. Down to 71 is our low. Tomorrow, we gear up for another day with high humidity and a good bet rain in the afternoon. Only 84 as our Tuesday high, but a 50% chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Similar conditions the rest of the week with highs in the mid to upper 80s and rain chances around 50% every day this week. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Enjoy the sounds of summer from Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers. Cannonball! Enjoy the taste of summer, too, with amazing hand-tossed pies, cool, crisp salads, and over 100 beers from around the world. Mellow Mushroom, in the Vista and on Sunset in Lexington.
Does your kitchen look like a scene out of a 1970s TV show? Is it time to modernize things with a fresh look? Let me strongly suggest you consider my friends over at Stone Interiors. And yes, these are folks I've known a long time. First as their customer and for many years as a partner right here at The Point. They turned our countertops into the centerpiece of our entire kitchen. Stone Interiors checks all the boxes. They're locally owned and operated, so they're here for 20 years and they stand by their work. They have the widest selection of granite, marble, and quartz to go with their incredible workmanship on counters, outdoor kitchens, tile flooring, backsplashes, and a whole lot more. Great selection, tremendous care for their work to go with a design staff to help you from start to finish on your next project. You don't have to have a Brady Bunch kitchen anymore. Climb into 2022. Give yourself a beautiful countertop. Give yourself a great summer with an outdoor kitchen. Go visit and see for yourself online at stoneinteriors.com or give them a call, make an appointment, watch what Stone Interiors can do for you. 461-8950, 461-8950. If you're an avid shooter or you're new to shooting, Shooter's Choice is your paradise. A firearms specialty store with all types of firearms, ammunition, accessories, AR platform rifles, shotguns, hunting rifles, and much more. Shooter's Choice has the largest and best selection of firearms in the area. Shooter's Choice is the oldest, the most professional firearms dealer in the Midlands. They've served us for more than 30 years. Family owned, they've never let themselves lose that hometown feel. You go into Shooter's Choice, you'll get experts who hunt and shoot. It's not like some big box store. Their staff has decades of experience. You just won't get this anywhere else. From the classics to the newest cutting-edge products anywhere in the firearms world, they buy, sell, and trade firearms. They have an indoor firing range for handguns and hunting rifles. If you don't want to spend the gas money, hop on shooterschoicesc.com and shop online 24/7. Whatever you choose, Shooter's Choice will make it easy on you. In West Columbia at 944 Sunset Boulevard or online, shooterschoicesc.com. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
You've seen the news. You've talked to your friends. You may have even looked around yourself. Home prices are nuts. Seems like no one is offering any kind of discount, except Lexington Discount Homes. Discount is their middle name. Quality homes that fit your budget with the size, model, and floor plan that your family needs. You can still afford your dream home at Lexington Discount Homes. Augusta Highway near Ballpark Road, 803-951-1900 or LexingtonDiscountHomes.com.
Everyone knows that here at The Point, we are all about supporting local businesses. We are all about local, local, local. You cannot get more local than my friend Greg McCoy and his business, Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Fran Halloran here. If you're buying a home or you're looking to refinance your current home, you owe it to yourself to call Greg. He is the real deal. You can expect Greg to treat you like you are his only client. You can expect Greg to scour the market to find you the best rate available. You can expect Greg to charge you a fair price for his work and his service. Why would you deal with some national company headquartered in who knows where when you can do business with Greg? Need further persuasion? Okay, I didn't even mention the good Greg does in our community by supporting local charities like Blue Star Mothers and Camp Chemo. Come on, you need to call Greg. Online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com, or you can call Greg at 803-722-6044. That's 722-6044.
Honey, did you see the gas prices as you drove home from work today?
I did. They are getting ridiculous.
Good thing for us, we don't have to go anywhere to get our medicine.
That's right. Ever since we switched to True Pharmacy, they have delivered all of our medicine for free.
Not only that, every time we buy anything at True Pharmacy, including our prescriptions, we get loyalty points.
Aren't those great? We get to use our loyalty points to buy other over-the-counter items.
Yes, this month I used them for our multivitamins.
I sure am glad we switched to True Pharmacy. True Pharmacy, 2 locations to serve you, West Columbia and Columbia on Divine.
All right, just a few more recruiting notes. Then John Kosis from the Fireflies will join us. Then we'll take more of your phone calls here on Sports Talk. So, latest USC offers going out. 2024 defensive end Jordan Ross, Vestavia Hills, Alabama. And 24 corner receiver Noah Jenkins of Highland Springs, Virginia. And 26 athlete Jazavian Currents of South Point. Airport receiver Apollos Cook committed to Duke. Ridgeview receiver Zion Agnew to East Carolina. Long snapper Gannon Burt of Fort Mill to Florida. Chapin tight end defensive end Max Drag to Appalachian State. Dutch Fork running back Jarvis Green, a visit to James Madison on Saturday. A week ago, offensive tackle Jatavius Shiver, 6'7", 270, Villarica, Georgia, committed to Vanderbilt after his official there. He did not shut down his recruiting. Saturday, he was back in Columbia for an unofficial for the Carolina Cookout. Said he really liked it, felt it was genuine up there. Met with the coaches, in particular with Coach Atkins, the offensive line coach, and had a few minutes with Shane Beamer. So he said it was a very good visit. And South Carolina was in his top 5 with Vandy, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Ole Miss before the commitment. Says he's still committed to Vanderbilt, but he will take some other visits. He's not yet scheduled any more visits for July or when the season begins. But the Gamecocks, he said, will get an official visit with them during the season. Cornerback receiver Vicari Swain, Carrollton, Georgia, was at USC over the weekend. He did not make a commitment or anything then. He's also seen Maryland and Vanderbilt, plans to take an official to Mississippi State during the season. Georgia Tech is also one of his options, but he enjoyed himself, spent a lot of time with Torian Gray. They like him as a corner and as a receiver. He also talked to Justin Stepp. He likes Beamer's personality, and he said he connected with everybody, and everybody with them connected with his family and everybody that came in with him. So the Gamecocks are in strong contention in his top 5. He says he'll commit about 2 weeks before his season or a few weeks into his season. He had 55 catches, 855 yards, 8 touchdowns, 28 tackles, and 6 interceptions last season. And the other schools I mentioned are in his top 5: Maryland, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech. Defensive tackle Elijah Davis, 6'5", 300, Wagner Sally, East Mississippi Junior College, was in for the Gamecock Cookout unofficially, reconnecting to Shane Beamer and Jimmy Lindsey. He also visited back in May, and he said the coaches really got into how things work there at USC, and they worked him. They want him mostly for the 3 technique on the defensive line, mostly to bring the pressure up the middle and rush the quarterback. And USC's been on him since he was a junior in high school, so they really want him still. They've been working him hard, And they are one of his top schools right now with Alabama, Tennessee, Florida State, and Ole Miss. He said he also wants to give Auburn a look at some point when he can arrange a visit there, but his decision won't come until after his season. Goose Creek quarterback Drew Moore committed to Mercer. Clemson commitment. Christopher Vizina on the roster for the Elite 11 finals, which starts tomorrow in Los Angeles. USC quarterback target Dylan Lonergan in a story by 24/7 cited Stanford, coming off an official visit to Stanford, confirmed his final three: USC, Alabama, Stanford. He also, in that story, talked about Stanford's academics, and that academics are a major part for him. He announces on July 5th, USC, Stanford, or Alabama. And again, had a great visit out there. He met with the baseball people, too. He's a big-time baseball player. Of course, you know they have a great baseball program going on at Stanford. Academics.
They have great everything going on at Stanford.
Yeah, academics.
But are they recruiting him in the 1970s? Talking about how academics is so important to him. I applaud him. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Nobody outside of, Duke, Vanderbilt could contend with Stanford. But, I mean, we're in the NIL era. Doesn't he understand it's time to go make some money, young man?
Well, that's one that hasn't talked publicly about it or anything's been written about him from that standpoint. Clemson target Harris Sewell going to announce his college decision on Wednesday. He's from Odessa, Texas. He's from that very famous program, Permian High School.
Mojo.
And Clemson, Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama are the finalists. Took an official visit to Clemson. Recently took one to Texas A&M. The Clemson recruiting people feel like Clemson's going to get him. Those that cover Clemson recruiting, they are all sensing that he's coming to Clemson through their sources. That'd be a big pickup for the Tigers on the offensive line. And in basketball, Clemson over the weekend offered 6'1" Brandon Reichsteiner of Woodstock, Georgia. He also has Miami, Appalachian State, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Dayton, Northwestern, Wichita State, Kansas State, Wofford, George Mason, Vermont, Xavier, Tulane, Rice, Toledo, and North Florida offers. Okay, there you go. Recruiting for now. But as you know, right now, recruiting is not taking a breath as things are happening. And again, South Carolina has another commitment out there to be claimed at some point in time, as Shane Beamer tonight sent out another commitment alert for his program. So things are rolling there. Things are rolling for Clemson. Everybody should be happy this time of the year with what's happening with their recruiting classes. As Lou Holtz liked to say, recruiting class, it's like a newborn baby. Everybody should love it and see what it grows into over time. With that, let's welcome in our little baseball baby here to Sports Talk, the voice of the Columbia Fireflies, who he's been saying, just wait till the season turns over and they wipe the slate clean. This will be a new ball club. Sure enough, they went out and got some W's last week as the season turned over. John Kosis, the voice of the Fireflies, with us here on Sports Talk. John, it's good to have you with us, and had to feel good to see those guys go out and get some wins last week.
Right, get some wins and start the second half off on the right foot. It took 3 pitches in the second half for Rivertown to hit a home run and give the Fireflies their first lead of the second half. And as they've taken it, it's only been 3 games, but 2-1's good enough for first place in the South Division. And boy, oh boy, does that feel better than saying 28 back.
If we could only all live our lives that way, let's just start over here about midway through and see if we can do better. Yeah, 2-1 start. Actually, you won your first 2. You lost your last one, but you're tied for first place in the South Division right now, the Carolina League. And could you sense a little extra zip around the ballpark, around the stadium, with the folks getting some wins behind them?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think just getting the reset, the 0-0 means so much you got to remember, these kids are all 18 to 20 years old. It might seem superficial to go like, oh, yeah, well, technically at the start of every season, right, you reset. So what makes this different? Well, it's the same club, but they get that breath of fresh air, and they get the opportunity to go out there and prove that they're a little bit better than maybe they were at the start of the year. A lot of guys at this level say, if you get 1% better every day, eventually you become a major leaguer. And Phil, I know you got an opportunity to see Chipper Jones when he was a young player, right? When Chipper was in this league, he had 56 errors in a single season. I don't think he did that when he was in Atlanta, right? So these guys are still growing, and I think this is a great chance for them to show how much progress they've made since April.
Yeah, you don't get in the Hall of Fame by making 56 errors in a big league season. I know it's a very small sample so far, and things can turn around in a hurry. You played 3 games in the second half, but you're 2-1. What do you see maybe as a little bit of a difference, or is it just attitude? Is it just mental for them right now?
You know, I think part of it's definitely been attitude. I wouldn't discount that, right? You know, it's just look good, feel good, right? It's a lot easier to look good when you're nothing to nothing rather than 18-48. So I think, as silly as that sounds, that affects the play a little bit. But you know, I feel like we've been saying this a little bit for 2 or 3 weeks now. But the young guys are seeing their pitch counts elevate. They're being able to work a little bit deeper into the game, and each of those 3, each of Panzini, Caderna, and Mazzucato are really talented. They're not giving up lots of runs. They're giving the offense an opportunity to jump out in front. And when this team plays from out in front, they're good. The problem at the start of the season was actually just getting to that point, right? They weren't grabbing leads often. So getting the starting pitching to go deep into games is going to help them be competitive a lot more as this season progresses.
All right, so coming up tomorrow, you guys are still on the road. You'll be down at SRP Park, North Augusta, to play Augusta, and you guys haven't named your pitcher yet, but they're going to throw Necro. That's right, one of the Necro guys at you. And he's got to be one of the best pitchers going at this level of baseball right now, 7-0 with a 1.72.
Yeah, J.J. Necro is ridiculously good. We've seen him 3 times now, and he is 3-0 against the Fireflies, but that was the first half Fireflies, right? What I will say, a brief scouting report of the nephew of the Hall of Famer, Phil. He's got a good spinner. It's 2 different sliders that he throws. He throws a regular slider and then a wipeout slider. Think a la Andrew Miller from the mid-2000s, right, with the Yankees first and with the Indians second. He can throw the knuckleball, but he does not throw it in-game. But J.J. Necro is definitely one of the more talented pitchers I've seen since, and I'll throw this name out because he's relevant right now, Spencer Strider pitched in this league last year.
Yeah, and he's showing himself, the former Tiger, showing himself well for the Braves. One quick thing about Necro, I mean, he's never lost in his minor league career. He's 9-0 with a 1.94 ERA. Any chance he'll get called up to a higher level before tomorrow night, and you can avoid him?
So they already have said that he'll pitch both on Tuesday and on Sunday. So JJ's certainly going to be here this week. And remember, he started this year off as a reliever. They've moved him to a starter. So I think that's his big change for this year is finding out that he's going to be a starter and working deeper and deeper into games. And I believe that next year he'll definitely start in high A, but I think he'll be the Carolina League Pitcher of the Year, I think.
No, really.
Going around the horn tonight here on Sports Talk, John Kosas, the voice of the Columbia Fireflies, with us, as he is every Monday. And, John, you talked about from a mental standpoint, it's nice to look up the standings and see Columbia sitting on top with more wins in the column than more losses. But from an on-the-field product, do you see changes from the first half of the season now as we get into the second half of the season and say the way the batting order is situated, the pitching rotation maybe gets changed, the way the guys play? Do you bunt more? Do you steal more than you did in the first half just because you saw how the first half maybe didn't go as well?
The philosophy has been the same from like a run and gun standpoint that the Royals have always liked to do, but you brought the rotation up, and, you know, like I was just saying, that rotation, a big part of the success. I think his second reason is the team's getting older. David Howley playing in the outfield has been a breath of fresh air. The outfield outside of Rivertown has kind of struggled to be consistent, and Howley is just one of those grinder, hard work guys, drafted out of high school, but certainly the oldest outfielder on this team outside of maybe Town, and he's been really good so far. on the infield and specifically in the catching room, Omar Hernandez as well as Carter Jensen, two younger guys, right? They're 20 and under. You add Kyle Hayes to that group, and you get a veteran guy who was signed as a minor league free agent. I think he's helped teach them a little bit more about what he still does as a 24-year-old to prepare his body each day and why it's important. And, when you're 18 like Carter Jensen, maybe you're not necessarily feeling the effects of, not getting enough sleep or an unhealthy diet one day like you would when you're 24 or 25, but maybe it impacts you a little bit without feeling it. And I think they'll say, both Omar and Carter, that Kyle has been an incredible guy to look up to and teach them how to be more consistent. And we're seeing it in the numbers.
All right. So big weekend in Columbia coming up for you guys around the July 4th holiday. Lay it out there for us.
Yeah, huge weekend. We're hoping that it could be one of the bigger weekends this year. We start with the fireworks with the Philharmonic, and that's presented by Prisma Health. It's going to be on July 2nd. That's Saturday, and it's really cool. We did for the first time last year. They play a lot of patriotic pops music, and whether that's the 1812 Overture or America the Beautiful or just Battle Hymn of the Republic type music, and they sync it up with the fireworks. So it's cool. It's a much larger fireworks show than traditionally during a baseball game. In fact, we can't have any fans in the outfield during it because the shells are so big. This year, it will be the biggest performance ever at Segra Park in terms of fireworks. So it'll be really exciting, and it's just a good time. Whether you're a baseball fan or not, I think you can appreciate being outside, enjoying fireworks, and that style of live music. And if that weren't enough, we're going to have another fireworks show and a game. The Fireflies welcoming in the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, who won the first half South Division crown in the Carolina League. And afterwards, we'll have a double fireworks show. So if you're used to the typical Saturday night fireworks show, we're going to have twice as many shells going off on that fireworks show. That would be July 4th is Monday night. So certainly want to come on out for that and enjoy what's more patriotic than a ball game. Maybe get yourself a hot dog and a cold beverage and watch some fireworks. Absolutely. And maybe watch a team that's winning continue to win. We thank you as always, my friend. Have yourself a great week, and we'll talk to you. Well, we'll have to adjust next week. We're off next Monday for the holiday. Let's plan on next Tuesday if that works for you. I'll be in touch. Yeah, sounds perfect for me. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Thank you as always. Thanks, John Kosis, the voice of the red hot Columbia Fireflies, off to a 2-1 start. But like you said, when you go 28 under in the first half and you win 2 of your first 3 to start the second half, you feel pretty good about yourself.
It's funny. Every time he chats, and he has done it often, about Rivertown, I keep waiting for his first name.
Yeah, really.
That's such a great baseball name, Rivertown. And I hope he's a guy who has a terrific career, because I think Major League people would enjoy being able to broadcast and watch him play.
And how soon will that Negro kid be up in Atlanta?
Oh my gosh.
The way he's
What's
going
he doing
right
there?
now.
What's he doing in single-A ball now?
Really? All right, back after the break. Got another kid with an announcement date we'll tell you about coming up.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
Founders Federal Credit Union knows your life is busy and your money is important. We are proud to offer local personalized services and convenient online services like Founders Online and the Founders app. You'll love being with us as much as we love serving you. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership with Founders. Relax, win with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
All right, a couple of other recruiting things just breaking. Sharif Denson, a cornerback from Virginia who had a USC offer, had the Gamecocks on his short list, along with Ohio State, Florida, and Texas A&M, and made a couple of unofficials at USC, including the spring game. He committed to Florida. All right, so that was one USC was after. And Clemson, one of their top targets, running back, a guy I think they've, well, I mean, it's not like you got to have him, but a guy that they want to have, who's right now their top quarterback prospect, Jeremiah Cobb from Montgomery, Alabama. He has set Wednesday for his commitment announcement, and he's got it down to Clemson, Auburn, and Tennessee, the finalists. So he'll be announcing on Wednesday. And again, Harris Sewell, big offensive tackle from out in Texas. The announcement time for that will be 1 o'clock Eastern. And his finalists, Clemson, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama. So we got a lot of stuff. About to pop here over the next few days. Checking on a few other
Speaking
notes.
of Florida, though, if I may, real quickly.
Yes,
have you
you may.
seen the Florida fan base? And they are already ready to get rid of Billy Napier before he even coaches a game. They were all over him this past weekend. I think part of it was the Miami quarterback situation, but good grief, people.
What are
Back
they
off
mad
the ledge
about?
a little bit. Evidently,
It's not
he's
his fault his
recruiting.
collective can't make a big enough bid for it. Well, I guess they did make a big enough bid. I guess money doesn't drive everything with some people, you know? Who doesn't want to be a multimillionaire, just a millionaire many times over? You know,
I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example. They lost an offensive tackle who they were in a battle with Florida State. And evidently he chose Florida State. And somebody chimed in and said, well, Billy Napier getting stuffed into a locker yet again. And that's some of the nicer things they've had to say about him down there.
Yeah, that was Kearney who did that. Roderick Kearney.
There we go.
Who committed to Florida State over Florida. I found this to be a very interesting tweet from a guy named Warren Sharp at Sharp Football. He's got 275,000 followers, so he must be pretty well followed. Yeah. So assuming that all this is true about Jaden Rashada and his his Miami NIL being worth $9.5 million, he points out that there are several big-time NFL quarterbacks with salaries below $9.5 million. He listed Trevor Lawrence at 9.2, Joe Burrow at 9 even, Kyler Murray at 8.9, and on down the list. So, I mean, here we are now where we used to joke about. Remember, we used to joke about athletes from Miami going to professional leagues or the NFL, but taking a pay cut. Literally.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, this guy will be taking a pay cut one day if he makes it to the NFL based off of what he reportedly is going to be making at Miami. Let's dive into this a little bit more since we're talking about it. So this whole thing popped up yesterday with a story on On3 by Jeremy Crabtree, who is a highly regarded reporter. I've known Jeremy for years. We used to exchange information together back in the day when you used to communicate by phone with other people covering recruiting. He was in another part of the country. We'd share information. So he wrote on Sunday that shortly after Rashada committed to Miami, everything on social media turned out, started kicking out stuff about NIL money in Miami outbidding Florida. Now, his attorney is a guy named Michael W. Caspino with Forward Counsel in Newport Beach, California. And he said the rumor mill isn't accurate. He said Caspino said that Rashada took a considerably lesser NIL deal by picking the Hurricanes. He said, quote, Jaden left millions on the table and millions. He did not pick the highest offer. He went there because he loves Miami, the coaches, and the opportunity, end quote. Multiple sources told On3 Rashada agreed to a deal with Miami mega booster John Ruiz for $9.5 million. The same sources said Rashada turned down an offer from Florida's Gator Collective for $11 million. And now Ruiz said, quote, the report by On3.com is inaccurate as it relates to Jaden Rashada. He says, I never spoken to Mr. Caspino about Jaden Rashada. Mr. Caspino and I spoke about an unrelated player months ago, had a very professional and pleasant conversation. I respect him. Here's the one thing that I found interesting in the story. Caspino said, quote, Florida is the most dysfunctional collective in all of college football. I plan on steering my clients away from them. So what does this mean about that and the future of recruiting when a guy can come out and say things like that? We'll pick back up on this, I'm sure, tomorrow. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Pat. Everybody have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow here on Sports Talk.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107. The Point.
Breaking news this hour.